By the year 2003, video games were expected to meet at least a basic level of quality control. The industry had long moved past infamous disasters like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, E.T., and Superman 64. Surely, by the 21st century, games were at least functional. Unfortunately, big rigs over-the-road racing defied even those expectations. More than just being unplayable, Big Rigs was an unfinished product, rushed to release with entire sections missing. Somehow the publishers deemed this acceptable. The sheer number of development blunders turned the game into one of the most notorious failures in video game history. While it has been widely showcased in reviews, memes, and internet culture, it has since faded into the abandonware realm. And yet, despite everything, this game can still be speedrun. With a game this broken, it was only a matter of time before someone pushed its limits, seeking new ways to break it even further, drawing in an audience eager to watch this absurdity of gameplay. As with any speedrun, one question always stands at the core: how fast can this game be beaten? To find the answer, we will go back to 2013, to the very beginning of Big Rig's any% speedrun history. The first recorded speedrun of Big Rig's over-the-road racing was performed by Thomas Choptovy on December 19th. Right from the start, Thomas defied the game's intended mechanics, choosing to drive in reverse instead of forwards. This was a major deviation from what the developers had intended. The reason for this lies in a huge oversight in the game's code. In most racing games, developers set a speed limit for both forward and reverse driving. Big Rigs does attempt to do this, but limits your forward speed to a rather sluggish 81 miles an hour. However, the developers did not expect players to drive in reverse for more than a few seconds. As a result, no speed cap exists for driving in reverse. This means that, as long as you hold the reverse key, your truck will continue to accelerate infinitely, eventually reaching a max speed of 12.3 undecillion miles an hour. That's 123 with 36 zeros. A number so absurd most calculators can't even process this. For comparison, light, the fastest thing known in the universe, travels at a modest 670 million miles per hour. That's pretty fast, but Big Rig speed? That is 18 octillion times faster than light. At this speed, you wouldn't just cross the galaxy, you wouldn't just visit every star system. You would outrun the very expansion of space itself. You would reach the edge of the observable universe in far less a time it takes to blink. Let's scale it down a bit. The planet has a circumference of 25,000 miles. At Big Rig speed, you'd circle the entire planet 500 quadrodecillion times per second. That's a 5 followed by 44 zeros. A bullet fires at 1700 miles an hour. Big Rig speed is 7.2 vigintillion times that speed. By the time the bullet leaves the chamber, you've already finished every race that could ever exist. The DeLorean needed only 88 miles an hour to travel through time. Big Rigs would travel so fast, it would uninvent time. With this absurd glitch in mind, completing the course in reverse is significantly faster than driving forwards, making it the optimal strategy for speedrunning the game. The first course in any % is Small Town Road. It begins and ends in a straightaway. Thomas holds down reverse and makes minor adjustments as he navigates the turns. To stay on track, he uses hills as indicators if he is going too far left or too far right, all while continuously accelerating. At some points in his run, he lets go of the down arrow key. This causes the truck to instantly stop. Yet another critical flaw in the game's code. Releasing the down arrow or spacebar immediately halts all movement regardless of your speed. While this might seem like a problem, at the time it was a very useful tool. Players can use this to quickly regain their control when their truck becomes too fast to control. Thomas takes full advantage of this, keeping his Big Rig under control while maintaining a very fast pace. Thanks to this strategy, he completes Small Town Road in just under 1 minute and 14 seconds. However, the run doesn't end there. He still has to complete the remaining courses. Yet another major oversight in Big Rigs involves checkpoints. In version 1, the most widely known version of the game, and the one used in any percent, the game does not reset checkpoint progress in between races. In simple terms, once you finish a race, the game still thinks that you've passed every checkpoint. So, the moment you start a new race, the game immediately declares you the winner. After finishing Small Town Road, Thomas Choptovy starts Double Passage 1 and instantly wins, triggering the now iconic "You're Winner" screen. He repeats this for the remaining courses, ending his run on Forgotten Road 1 with a total time of 2 minutes and 6 seconds. You may have noticed that one course was missing from Thomas's speedrun: Nightride. Nightride is listed as the 4th course in Big Rigs. On the menu screen, it appears to be a nighttime city-based track with neon lights visible on the right side of the image. Among the 5 available courses, Nightride arguably looks the most appealing. It also aligns with the major trend in early 2000s racing games. By the year 2003, the racing genre had huge momentum. The underground street racing aesthetic was booming. The Midnight Club franchise made illegal street racing a mainstream gaming phenomenon, and the need for speed games heavily influenced car culture. Many racing games embraced this style, offering car customization, bass-heavy soundtracks, and vibrant urban nightscapes. Nightride appears to fit this mold perfectly, except for one problem: it crashes the game. Big Rigs was rushed to release, and Nightride is a prime example of this. The developers had no time to design the course, create the route, or even create a test track. Instead of implementing a placeholder level, it just makes the game crash. In the patched version released in January 2004, this issue was fixed, but not in the way we would have expected. That will be discussed later. So, what was Nightride supposed to look like? Sadly, almost nothing is known about what Nightride was supposed to be. The only things that we do know is the menu screen thumbnail and the skybox in the game's debug files. However, even the skybox is a letdown. It appears unfinished, low effort, and ironically it's not even nighttime. Nightride remains one of Big Rig's biggest mysteries, one more piece of evidence proving just how rushed, broken, and incomplete the game really is. 2 months after Thomas's run, a new face appeared. On February 13, 2014, the Bashor uploaded his video onto YouTube. Unlike Thomas, the Bashor does not follow the intended route. Instead, he completes the course in reverse, getting the checkpoints in the reverse order. In Big Rigs, it doesn't matter the order of how checkpoints are reached. As long as the UltraNav UI checkpoint bar is complete, you can complete the race. However, that wasn't the biggest innovation in the Bashor's performance. It was actually the usage of the up arrow key as a form of speed control. Normally, letting go of the reverse key causes the Big Rig to instantly stop, which does waste a lot of time if done frequently. By using the up arrow, the Bashor can slow down without coming to a complete stop, allowing for smoother adjustments and maintaining high speeds more effectively. Interestingly, the red PNT or penalty text on the UltraNav UI is completely meaningless. It has no actual effect on gameplay or timing. Like Thomas, the Bashor ends his run when the "Your Winner" screen appears after Forgotten Road 1. With a time of 150.4, he made history as the first ever any percent run to be done under 2 minutes. However, this would be the last time that the old route was used, because a big change was about to happen. The next day, Mr. XCD123 submitted his run. Although his time was a bit slower than the Bashor, there was one major difference. His run included Nightride, ending the timer when the game crashes. This change redefined how any percent runs were timed, and would become the standard for all future runs. Mr. XCD123 used the same strategies used by the Bashor, driving in reverse for maximum speed, using the up arrow key to maintain control, and skipping checkpoints for optimized routing. With a time of 2 minutes and 20 seconds, It was far slower than the Bashor's time, but it was the earliest recorded run using what would become the modern day route. Just over a month later, on March 19th, the legendary angry video game nerd uploaded a YouTube video about Big Rigs. His video discussed the game's many flaws, its broken physics to its unfinished content, in his signature entertaining style. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It remains one of the best videos talking about Big Rigs.
It's Big Rigs. 18 wheels of thunder, and we got trucks. Yeah, trucks. Big Rigs. Off-road traction. More power for non-stop driving action. Big Rigs.
The video's impact on Big Rig speedrunning cannot be overstated. Angry Video Game Nerd's massive audience led to a momentary surge of interest in the game, with most players playing the game just to experience the absurdity of Big Rigs for themselves, and not really for speedrunning purposes. This exposure helped solidify Big Rig's status as one of the most infamous racing games ever made, ensuring its legacy in gaming history and in the speedrunning community. At this point, the record technically belonged to Mr. XCD, but a few days after Angry Video Game Nerd uploaded his video, the Big Rig speedrunning scene saw its biggest shakeup yet. An American runner named Felix came out of nowhere, dropping the world record to an unbelievable 1:38. Felix's run wasn't just faster, it redefined what had been possible. While previous runners like Mr. XCD and the Bashor struggled to maintain speeds of 150 miles an hour, Felix effortlessly pushed his truck in reverse to a much higher 200 to 250 miles an hour. His precision allowed him to navigate the course's terrain with far better control. On Small Town Road, a track that had taken Mr. XCD over a minute to complete, Felix completed it in just 46 seconds. While it looks like Felix was a new world record holder, there was one problem. Felix stopped the timer the moment the screen changed to your winner on Forgotten Road 1. While his run was very impressive, it doesn't use the modern routing for any percent, meaning his run is technically invalid. And then, the community went silent. For nearly 2 years, Big Rig speedrunning faded into obscurity. No new runs were posted, no major discoveries were made. It seemed like Mr. XCD's run might be the final word in Big Rig's history. But then, at Awesome Games Done Quick 2015, something unexpected happened.
And then the one we go with here is Small Town Road.
Yes.
As soon as I click race, we start.
Okay.
And it begins.
You ready on the timer?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Whoops.
It started.
They got it.
Yeah, we started.
Okay.
Here we go.
Oh yeah.
As part of the Awful Games Done Quick segment, Alex Navarro, the same Alex Navarro who famously reviewed Big Rigs for GameSpot, took on the challenge of running any percent live. His time? 3:21. It was far from the world record, but it did something more important. It temporarily put Big Rigs back in the spotlight. Again, it did not take long for the speedrunning scene to return into months of silence. However, after some time, something incredible happened. In just a single week, the world record dropped from 220 seconds to just 94. On May 15th, 2015, Australian speedrunner named Liam uploaded his attempt at Big Rigs onto Twitch. It was the first serious push in nearly 2 years, and it would be no ordinary run. Liam was the first non-American to make his mark on Big Rig speedrunning, but more than just that, he understood the game's mechanics on a level no one had before. His execution was better than anyone else had ever done. He knew exactly how to exploit the game's reverse speed glitch. While other runners had struggled to control their Big Rig at high speeds, Liam made it look really easy. He reached speeds far beyond what had been thought manageable. But Liam's skill wasn't just in his movement. His menuing was incredibly precise. In a game where every fraction of a second counted, Liam wasted none. When the game crashed on Nightride and ended his run, Liam had a time of 1:56. For the first time ever, someone had completed big rigs using the current routing in under 2 minutes. And then, as if on cue, something even bigger happened. Right around this point, the speedrun.com page for big rigs was created. For the first time, runners from around the world had a centralized leaderboard, and with it came a new standard. Real-time attack, or RTA, had been the norm, but due to inconsistent loading times across different PCs between each runner, the community decided to shift towards load remove time, or LRT, as the official metric. RTA is determined by the total time it takes from the start, when the user clicks race when doing Small Town Road, all the way until the game crashes on Nightride. Load remove time is determined by the total time related to human input. This factors in the time it takes to complete Small Town Road and each menuing. The load time in between these moments are not included. Load remove time is essentially the same thing as in-game time, and for all future references, IGT will take the place of LRT. Liam's run had set the gold standard, but his time at the top would be short-lived. Just 9 days after Liam's run, another Australian speedrunner, Shigbeard, took things to an entirely new level. Shigbeard immediately goes in double reverse when he begins Small Town Road, and not even 10 seconds into the level, he has reached 300 miles an hour. Keep in mind, this is already a speed that Mr. XCD rarely wanted to exceed. By driving in double reverse, players can reach much higher speeds in a shorter time. At these speeds, the sensitivity of the big rig increases, and pressing the left or right arrow key would make the big rig spiral out of control. Shigbeard then continues to go in reverse but only using the down arrow key. At this point at the course, he is near the end. Once he reaches the straightaway, he goes back into double reverse and completes Small Town Road in 33 seconds. Shigbeard makes a small mistake of almost going to double passage 2 and skipping double passage, but he fixes this. A few seconds of time were lost, but nothing too significant. He was way ahead of Liam's time. He doesn't make the same mistake after this and has good menuing for the remainder of his run. With an almost unbelievable time of 1:34, Shigbeard had beaten the world record by 22 seconds. This run was monumental for 2 reasons. The first reason was because he was now the only player to complete big rigs in under 100 seconds. And second, he is the only runner at the time to have achieved an in-game time of under 1 minute. And once again, big rig speedrunning quickly fell into being dormant. Shigbeard stood alone at the top, his record seemingly untouchable. As 2015 turned to 2016, and then to 2017, no one came close. But on June 25th, 2017, all of that changed. A French runner by the name of JV had been quietly refining his technique, and after months of preparation, he struck gold. Like Shigbeard, JV began Small Town Road in double reverse and also cut a corner to save some time. He very well replicates the way Shigbeard does Small Town Road, but he takes it a step further and continues accelerating past 600 miles an hour. And with a slightly better endgame, he completes Small Town Road in 32 seconds. Unlike Shigbeard, JV got the menuing right and did not almost skip a level. Even with this, it was neck and neck, but he pulled through. With an RTA of 133 and an IGT of 41 seconds, he had beaten Shigbeard by a mere second RTA, but he beat Shigbeard by 4 seconds IGT. And since IGT was the determining factor for runs, JV was the new world record holder. It was a hard-fought victory, but it would be short-lived. In fact, JV's time at the top would go down as the shortest in Big Rig's any % history. As soon as he saw JV's run, Shigbeard knew exactly what he had to do. Less than a day later, he was back, determined to reclaim that title. From the moment this round began, it was clear that this was going to be something special. The improved fluidity, precision, and control. Gradually he built up his speed, reaching a pretty fast 400 miles an hour. JV had set the previous best at 32 seconds, but with cleaner turns and much better inputs, Shigbeard shaved 3 seconds and completed Small Town Road in 29 seconds. As the run continued, he remained composed. His menu was fast. Though not perfect, nothing would really cost him the run at this point. He completed his run with a time of 139 RTA, which on the surface seems slower than JV. But again, the real number that matters is IGT, and Shigbeard got 38 seconds. Once again, Shigbeard was the undisputed king of big rigs, but this time, his reign would last a little bit longer. By this point, big rigs was, for all intents and purposes, abandonware. The game had been unceremoniously dumped onto Walmart shelves in late 2003, only to be pulled soon after due to its reputation. Its developer, Stellarstone, had long since vanished, and the game had faded into obscurity once again. And yet, despite all of that, the speedrunning scene tried to keep it alive. However, as the years passed, big rigs remained a niche curiosity. The Angry Video Game Nerd review had given it one last moment in the spotlight, but after that, interest dwindled. Even the record-chasing frenzy that defined the mid-2010s had come to a standstill. In October 2018, after nearly a year of complete silence, a new name appeared on the leaderboards. This runner wasn't from America or Australia. He wasn't part of the old guild of big rig speedrunning. But he was about to change everything. Nimputs' pursuit of the Big Rigs world record began on October 26, 2018, when he posted an impressive initial time of 146 RTA or 50 seconds IGT. However, he wasn't content with just being competitive. Within a mere 10 days, he shaved 6 seconds off his time, reaching a 140 RTA and 43 seconds IGT. This was a significant improvement, and he was starting to close down on Shigbeard. By continuing to learn from his previous runs and optimize his routing, Nimputs finished Small Town Road in 29 seconds, tying Shigbeard for the fastest time ever recorded on that level. With a few improvements to his menuing, he set a new personal best of 134 RTA and 38 seconds IGT. This was a fantastic achievement, but despite a faster RTA, he shared the same IGT as Shigbeard, making them joint world record holders. This marked the first and only time in Big Rig's history that two players were simultaneously world record holders. But Nimputs wasn't satisfied. He wanted that record to himself, and he delivered a performance that pushed the boundaries even more. Whether he knew it would be his last run or not, it completed what he always wanted. He began Small Town Road in double reverse, reaching speeds above 500 miles an hour, a very, very difficult task. With an improved double reverse technique, he set a new IGT record of 36 seconds. His RTA was still 134, but since IGT is what counts, it solidified him as the undisputed world record holder. After this, Big Rig seemed to fade into obscurity once again. By the end of the year, it appeared that the game might slip into complete irrelevance. And for the next 2 years, no new records were set. Nimputs held the world record not just due to his skill, but because the game itself had been all but forgotten. June 2021 marked the rise of an entirely unknown runner, one who would shatter the record again and again. Nobody saw it coming, and nobody would ever be able to keep up. That runner was szcymanski. Amidst the uncertainty of the COVID pandemic, I was determined to unseat Nimputs. My journey began on June 21st, 2021 with a rather unremarkable run of 257, far from the record. However, I knew that this time was improvable, and I was prepared to make it happen. June 22nd would be a special day in my speedrunning career. Even though it was only my second day in the game, I improved my PB 5 times. When the day began, my best time was 239. When I was done, my PB was 151, 48-second improvement. As summer break allowed me ample time to focus on my grinding, my dedication began to pay off in ways that the community couldn't imagine. On June 24th, Shigbeard reached out to me.
I reckon you got what it takes to get world records, so good luck, my dude. Keep at it.
He was right. and just 6 days later, history was made. I had closely studied Nimputs runs, and had begun to replicate them, if not outright improve them. I had adopted double reverse, refined my routing, and brought back the checkpoint skip that JV and Shigbeard used. I completed the track in just 28 seconds, the fastest time ever recorded. My menuing was very good. When the dust settled, the leaderboard had a new name at the top: 129 RTA, 35 seconds IGT. By about 30 frames, I had beaten Nimputs. For the first time since 2014, the Big Rigs world record belonged to an American. But I wasn't satisfied. I wanted to push the game to its absolute limits. This required dedication, perseverance, most importantly, patience. I was ready, and I began. I was determined to push Big Rigs further than anyone had before. My latest breakthrough was mastering double reverse to an unprecedented level. It had already given me a record-breaking 123 RTA and 29 second IGT. Unlike previous runners who carefully managed their acceleration in double reverse, I took a different approach. I never let up my speed. I kept getting faster and faster while maintaining near perfect control. I had mastered the control of the Big Rig. The result? A jaw-dropping 22-second completion of Small Town Road, beating the former IL record by almost 5 seconds. And just a week later, I did the impossible, again. On July 20th, I had completed Small Town Road entirely in double reverse, something never done before. My mastery of double reverse was practically absolute, and my best lap time jumped even further to 21.2 seconds. With the new record of 122.5 RTA and 28 seconds IGT, I wasn't just a world record holder. I had fundamentally changed the way Big Rigs was played. My aggressive use of double reverse, near perfect routing, and optimized checkpoint skips had shattered the limits of what was thought possible. But then, silence. No new runs, no updates, no hints of further improvements. As I went back to high school for my senior year, my speedrunning activity rapidly faded. I did momentarily return, but my focus shifted elsewhere. A little known sequel to Big Rigs, Midnight Race Club Supercharged. Aside from some IL runs in late 2021, after weeks of relentless grinding, my activity disappeared from the leaderboard. It looked like I was done with Big Rigs. Or was I? Nobody knew that I was returning until my video dropped. In my first video back, I showed improved control, faster load times, and a sharper menuing sequence. My Small Town Road time? 21:08, one of my best ever ILs. By the end of the run, the clock stopped at 120.9. After nearly 2 years, I'd finally beaten my own record. But I wasn't done. This was only the beginning. The very next day, I did something unthinkable. My Small Town Road time was 20.93, 4/100ths from the IL. My split was more than half a second ahead of pace. At this point, every fraction of a second mattered. Every menu click, every load time, every micro adjustment was make or break. The pressure was immense, but I had been here before, and I pulled through, closing out the run in 119.44, the first ever sub 120 RTA run. My commitment to pushing the game further never wavered, and now I was almost there. Just one more day, and I would conclude this series on a very high note. September 3rd marked the final chapter of my September trilogy. At this point, I had mastered double reverse and fine-tuned Small Town Road to near perfection. So, what else was left to improve? The answer was simple: human input. The human limit had always been a question in Big Rig speedrunning. How much further could pure execution take the run? I was determined to find out, and on my final run, I delivered a 20.89 Small Town Road, tying the IL that I had set nearly 2 years ago. But even with this start, I was only 0.2 seconds ahead of pace, a razor-thin margin. This was familiar territory. I had been here before, I had done this many times. I finished my run with the 1:18 RTA and 28 seconds IGT, a new world record. For over a year and a half, the record stood untouched. It looked like I was finally done. But I wasn't. Even after all those years, since my first run in June 2021, I remained determined to push my own limits. In early February 2025, I returned to any percent. With the new PC and with a fully optimized route, I was ready to take Big Rigs to a new level. The early game remained largely the same. Small Town Road was still the foundation. But after the Arc to Triumph segment, I used a new checkpoint skip. Skipping a checkpoint to cut off an entire segment, going out of bounds to reappear near the next checkpoint, cutting a final corner, entering the home stretch faster than ever. The result? A small town road time of 20.48, barely off the new IL record. Everything else was standard to me. It came to me as second nature. Crisp menuing, flawless mouse control, and zero hesitation. When the run finished, the new world record was 1:12.46 RTA and 26 seconds IGT. And for a while, it stood on top. But in late April, after taking time away to focus on college, I came back. And not even an hour into my stream, ooh, 24.4, that's my second best time ever. Let's see what happens.
What?
I beat the world record again. With the new time of 1:12.25, it remains the fastest any percent run in Big Rigs history. Any percent was about speed skipping checkpoints, fast gameplay, and reaching the end as fast as possible. But that was just one level. What if you had to beat every track? While any percent is about beating Small Town Road as fast as possible, 100% takes a different route. Literally. A game already so broken, it barely resembles a racing game at all. And yet, despite all of its flaws, it became home to some of the most absurd speedruns. Most runners are drawn to the chaos seen in any percent. It's fast, wild, and done in seconds. But 100%? That's something else entirely. Instead of breaking the game, you have to complete the game. Every single track, even Nightride. The patch version was released in January 2004, which allows for Nightride to be actually playable. But instead of actually racing Nightride, the game redirects you to Double Passage 2. Also, the checkpoint system mechanic got fixed. To beat 100%, you don't just need speed. You need to know exactly which checkpoints to hit and which ones to skip. You have to memorize the entire layout and understand how to control the Big Rig at insane speeds. You also have to know how to react in an instant when things go wrong. It's a challenge far beyond any percent. But that didn't stop runners from trying. On March 12, 2016, Welsh runner Supercat126 recorded a time of 11:58. However, there is no video proof. 1 year later, Scottish runner Lane submitted the first recorded run with an 11:47 RTA. Watching his run is an experience in itself. The first thing you notice is that the camera shakes violently the entire time. This is an issue caused by running the game on a computer that had not been restarted in a long time. Setting that aside, his strategy was clear. Instead of following the track normally, he went in reverse to build up speed, then started getting the final checkpoints first while driving forwards. It was a bold approach, but its execution had flaws. Many flaws. His small town road split alone took over 2 minutes. In Double Passage, Lonnie drove in reverse for a couple seconds before stopping and getting the checkpoints in the reverse order, driving forwards. He does the same thing in Double Passage too. This approach really is not all that different than just driving forwards the whole time. Still, a world record was a world record, and by default, he was new world record holder. And for over a year, he stood at the top. But then, Big Rigs 100% saw a popularity surge. On July 17, 2018, British runner NoPen2 submitted an 11:43. Again, there was no video proof, but it was enough for a new personal best for him. And just weeks later, Israelite runner named GoGoName pushed the time even further, shaving off over a minute with a 10:05. His run, while impressive, had areas of improvement. His small town road time was over a minute, which for reference, at the time, Shigbeard's time for small town road in his any percent run was over half a minute faster. GoGoName was well aware of double reverse and used this a few times in his runs. He began double passage and double reverse, but then utilizes the up arrow for speed control. He does have good management of the big rigs and manages to stay on track for most of the time. Double passage 2 went rather well. He did not stop very frequently, and he was able to stay on the course almost the whole time. When he completed the course, he was over a minute ahead of his best pace. Things were looking good, and heading into Forgotten Road 1, his best possible time was just under 10 minutes. However, as he was nearing the end, he was missing a key checkpoint and had to go back several times to get it. He missed the finish line, and after completing the course, he lost 16 seconds, but was still ahead by almost 49. His run was rather special, but NoPen2 was watching. 1 month later, he struck back. NoPen2's improvement was staggering. He controlled the big rigs with more precision. His time on small town road alone was 53 seconds, about 10 seconds faster than GoGoName. He stopped less frequently and made far fewer mistakes. NoPen2 played the game with a more aggressive approach. Instead of trying to maintain a speed around 200 miles an hour, he did this with speeds well over 200. He was able to stop the big rig when he was going off course, and he knew where the track was and quickly got back. When Double Passage 2 was complete, he was more than an entire minute ahead of his best pace. His best possible time wasn't just a sub 10, he was on an 8:54 pace. But, just like GoGoName, the same part of Forgotten Road 1 caused problems. This part of Forgotten Road 1 has the most turns and has 4 checkpoints circled in red. Since you can skip a checkpoint and get the next one, the necessary ones are now shown in green. NoPen2 skipped the first key checkpoint, and this is okay because he got the checkpoint before reaching this section. But it does mean that he has to get the next checkpoint. He does this, and he also gets the last key checkpoint. All that's left is getting to the finish line. But he starts going in the wrong direction, and when he realizes this, drives forwards. After a few seconds, he goes back into driving in reverse and completes the course in 2 minutes, losing over 30 seconds on his pace. Even with a rather standard night ride, he beat the world record again with the 9:42. Very quickly in his speedrunning career, he had saved 2 minutes off his own time, but then something happened that no one saw coming. Just 1 week after NoPen2's run, Nimputs joined in. While we may remember Nimputs from any percent, his first run in big rigs was actually in 100%. In his first and only 100% run, he redefined how the game was played. He immediately began small town road and double reverse, and uses the up arrow key for great speed control. He uses a checkpoint skip that takes him to the Arc de Triomphe segment. After completing the straightaway, he continues to have great speed control and gets all the checkpoints he needs. Once he reaches the end, he goes back into double reverse and completes small town road in 50 seconds. In double passage, Nimputs again uses great speed control and was able to follow the course very well. He completes the level more than 10 seconds ahead of his best pace. In double passage 2, he completes the course with virtually no errors, now almost 30 seconds ahead of his pace. On Forgotten Road, Nimputs does a great job following the course, and after skipping a needed checkpoint, he quickly gets it and continues as normal. He was able to control the big rig well, but this was mostly due to the speed being a bit slow, only around 100 to 200 miles an hour. Nimputs does miss the finish line, but stops and completes the course, being over half a minute ahead of his pace. Now he was in Nightride. He does Nightride in a bit more aggressive approach than Devil Passage 2, having a higher average speed throughout. He wanted this run to be special. He finished Nightride in 1 minute and 20 seconds and finished the run in a staggering 7:42. He was anywhere from 5 to 30 seconds faster than No Pen 2 on every track. It was by far the biggest improvement in the category's history, and for a moment, it looked like no one would touch him. But 90 minutes later, his reign was already over. After seeing his record obliterated, No Pen 2 wasted no time. He returned to reclaim his throne, and what he delivered was even more shocking. He beat Nimputs' small time road time by 6 seconds, Devil Passage 12 seconds, Devil Passage 2 9 seconds, Forgotten Road 18 seconds, and on Nightride 14 seconds. And what did this give him? A 6:56 RTA. Another 46 seconds gone, just like that. No Pen 2 wasn't just setting records, he was actively erasing them. His reaction at the end of the run says it all. He knew that this was special.
There it is! There it fucking is! Fuck yes! Fuck yes! Sub 7 has been hit! Sub 7 is a thing! Sub 7 is fucking real! It's happened!
But even with this, he still wasn't satisfied. A few weeks later, he returned for one last time, and what he did cemented his legacy forever. No Pen 2's last submission for 100% was on November 6th. He wanted this to be the run that nobody would be able to beat. In Small Town Road, he goes into double reverse and uses the same checkpoint skip that Nimputs does. He very quickly took the big rig over 500 miles an hour. Using an even more aggressive approach than Nimputs, he had a much higher average speed and had greater control of the big rig. He completes Small Town Road in a very fast 28 seconds. He continued his aggressive approach into Devil Passage, and he had great speed control of the big rig. He didn't miss a checkpoint and he didn't need to stop. Entering Devil Passage 2, he was 4 seconds ahead of his pace. Devil Passage 2 was another great run. He completed the course in 47 seconds and was now 5 seconds ahead of his pace. Now he was in Forgotten Road 1, the same course that had given him in trouble. Everything was looking great, until he reached the notorious segment. He made the same mistake in his early runs and skipped the first key checkpoint in the same region talked about earlier. Even though he barely missed a checkpoint, he had to go back twice to get it. However, everything after this was normal, and even with this error, improved on his pace by 2 seconds. His Nightride performance was completely standard. No Pen 2 had just taken his time down to a seemingly untouchable 5:16. Looking back at his first documented run, he had cut his total time by 4.5 minutes. His understanding of the game was unmatched. His ability to adapt, refine, and perfect strategies set him apart from every other runner. And when he walked away, no one could touch his record. And for years, his 5:16 stood alone. He was the undisputed king of big rigs. But soon, a new challenger would arrive. And he wouldn't just beat the record, he would redefine how to do 100%. Szcymanski was ready. In March 2024, I came back to big rigs. I wasn't satisfied with just dominating any percent. I wanted 100%. On my very first attempt, my OBS crashed early in the run. But when the stream came back on at the start of Devil Passage, I was already 10 seconds ahead of No Pen 2. Devil Passage 2 was even better. I was 13 seconds ahead. Then came Forgotten Road 1. I had a very good performance and pushed my lead to nearly 20 seconds. And then I reached Nightride. At this point, every top runner knew that Nightride was the make or break moment. It was a short level, but a single missed checkpoint could be catastrophic. But I didn't miss. I finished Nightride in 48 seconds. getting an unbelievable time of 4:55, a 20-second world record improvement, the first sub-5 run in history. I had done what many had believed to be impossible, beating No Pen 2, but this was only the beginning. 1 month into my grind, I was on an incredible run. A 21-second small town road, 48-second double passage, 33-second double passage 2, 29-second Forgotten Road 1, and a 32-second night ride. All of this led to a historic 3:59, the first ever sub-4. At this point, I wasn't just improving their world record, I was setting times that were once considered purely theoretical, and over the next few months, I did it again and again. On September 9th, 2024, I made a very bold decision. I submitted Big Rigs into AGDQ, but instead of doing any percent like Alex Navarro, I submitted 100%, with the intent of showing the viewers everything about Big Rigs. I thought that GDQ would not accept this, but during a lab on November 1st, I was notified that my run was accepted. For the first time in 10 years, Big Rigs was returning to GDQ. All of this was more motivation for me to keep pushing the game's limits, reaching times that even I consider theoretical. By the end of December 2024, I had surpassed all of my initial theoretical times. I had already broke 3 minutes and 30 seconds. But I wasn't finished. On Christmas Eve, while most people were feeling festive, I was opening new possibilities in Big Rig speedrunning. During my off-stream AGDQ practice runs, I found myself on a run that felt different. My double passage time was 27 seconds, a full second ahead of pace. By the time I reached Forgotten Road 1, I was still ahead, but barely. One mistake in Night Ride would change everything. And then, it happened. At the 17-second mark, I made a huge mistake. I turned around to grab a checkpoint that I had already gotten. It cost me valuable time. And then seconds later, another mistake. I missed a key checkpoint near the end of the level. I had to loop around twice to get it, and then I overshot the checkpoint at the end, forcing myself to go into double reverse. Somehow, despite all of that, I still got a new world record with 3 minutes and 10 seconds. But that wasn't enough. On Christmas, after opening my presents and spending time with my family, I came back. This time, my double passage time was even better, 25 seconds. I cleaned up my mistakes on Forgotten Road 1 and Night Ride, and just like that, another new record, 3 minutes and 4 seconds. I was now less than 5 seconds away from breaking 3 minutes, and I had one more shot before the year ended. It was New Year's Eve. At this point, only one milestone remained. The last minute barrier. Getting a sub-3. After a series of failed attempts, I finally got a good time for Small Town Road, 20.8. My double passage time was 25.08, a new IL record. My double passage 2 time was 23.3, putting me way ahead of pace. By the time I reached Night Ride, I was on sub-3 pace. And then it happened again. I missed the same key checkpoints. Small but very costly mistakes. In the end, I finished in 3 minutes and 1 second. I was only 1.2 seconds away from history. The sub-3 was right there, but I wasn't gonna stop now.
You and your family ended up with a copy of Big Rigs Over the Road Racing, and nothing was ever the same again. And if none of that made sense to you, don't worry, the rest of the run won't either.
Yeah, pretty much like what a teacher said about that caveat with 100%. We actually want to start with the last course, Small Town Road, and the reason why that is because if we do any of these 4 courses first and then go to Small Town Road, the game crashes. So on that note, we will get started in 3, 2, 1, go! All right, so the first thing you're going to notice, I'm going to go backwards, and there's a reason why. James, you want to explain why I'm going backwards?
On January 9th, Big Rigs returned to Games Done Quick. During the Alpha block, I ran 100% live, joined by commentators DLSP, James Swan, and a T-Tree. Thousands watched online, and a massive audience watched in person. I finished in 3:29, a time that would have been the world record just 2 months earlier. Even Alex Navarro, the man who originally reviewed Big Rigs, took the blue sky to acknowledge the run, still hating the game, but respecting the grind. And a couple days later, on January 12th, I went back home from GDQ. And finally, after 3,229 days of Big Rig speedrunning. Alright, I am on sub 3 pace right now. Yes! Oh my god! Holy shit! 258! Yes! It happened! 3 minutes is done! I broke the last barrier. 2 minutes, 58 seconds. This wasn't just by a few frames. This was almost 2 entire seconds. It was the impossible made possible. And just 2 months later, after returning from a hiatus, I did it again. Oh my god! Oh my god, it fucking happened! And for a while, it stood on top. But 1 month later, the same day I broke the any percent record, I decided to test my luck with 100%. Shaking right now. Oh my god! Yes! Dude, what the fuck is going on? 2 minutes and 52 seconds. For a while, I was beginning to think that my 256 was becoming untouchable. But after I came back from my break, not even 35 minutes in my stream, I beat it by 4 seconds. The new world record in 100%. And unless something changes, it may never be beaten. In case you want to further understand some crazy physics that may apply when going from the max speed in reverse to instantly stopping, these would be the results. To get a better understanding of just how fast 12.3 undecillion miles per hour is, let's take the entire universe. According to our very trustworthy source Wikipedia, it is about 93 billion light years across in diameter. To set up the equations needed to determine how fast we can cross the universe at this speed, let's take our known values, the distance of the universe, and our max speed. We can then convert the 93 billion light years to miles by multiplying it by 5.879 times 10 to the power of 12, which gives us 5.467 times 10 to the 23 miles. We can now convert the 12.3 times 10 to the 37 miles per hour to miles per second by dividing this value by 3,600. That gives us a value of 3.417 times 10 to the power of 34 miles per second. As we now have the same units, we can now divide the two values to get roughly 1.6 times 10 to the negative 11 seconds. This is 16 billionths of a second, or 16 picoseconds using standard units. That's pretty fast. This is just about instantaneous. This is just about the same speed as a chemical bond breaking due to photoexcitation or vibrational energy transfer between molecules, as these are roughly within 10 to 100 fold of 16 picoseconds. Let's take it another step. We know that the big rigs can stop instantly. What would happen if this were to be done on a planet like Earth? Well, a lot of things would happen. Let's break it down into 6 periods. 1. The big rig starts to go in reverse. 2. After some time, the big rig reaches near light speed. 3. The big rig reaches light speed. 4. The big rig continues to exceed light speed. 5. The big rig reaches max speed. And 6. The big rig stops. In period 1, nothing really happens as the truck continues to accelerate backwards infinitely, while also assuming no friction, or else the truck would disintegrate. However, in period 2, things start to happen. As the truck approaches light speed, the time relative to the driver begins to slow down due to time dilation. Also, the mass of the big rig continues to exponentially increase. More and more energy is needed to continue this infinite acceleration, energy amounts nearing what exists in the current universe. In period 3, physics becomes negligible. The moment the big rig reaches light speed, the big rig's relativistic mass is infinite. Under normal circumstances, it would collapse into a black hole. But, for the sake of video game logic, we will ignore this, and it continues to accelerate and exceed light speed. As the big rig continues to exceed light speed in period 4, the big rig is now time traveling to the past relative to outside observers. And infinite energy may be created from this. This could cause the warping of the fabric of space-time. At this point, the laws of physics become really blurry and ambiguous as no one really knows what happens to an object that moves faster than light. It is possible that one of 2 events may occur. 1. The big rig breaks the universe's structure. All of space and time may fold, rip, or become inverted. 2. The big rig moves outside space-time and enters some unknown region, unknown to mankind. When the big rig reaches max speed, we have reached period 5. It is now moving around 18 octillion times the speed of light. The energy of this truck is calculated to be around 10 to the 85 joules, well more than the energy of the entire universe. By some strange reason, the big rigs is creating energy out of nothing. How much energy is actually in the universe? It's around 10 to the power of 69 joules. So, the big rig has about 2 quadrillion times more energy than the entire universe. That also is accounting for black holes, dark energy, all the stars, galaxies, cosmic microwave background radiation, everything. All of that is nothing close to the big rig energy quantities. At this point, it is entirely possible that the big rigs may be bigger than the entire universe due to energy distortions. And finally, we have reached the end, period 6. Normally, the time it takes to reach 0 seconds is instantly. But because we like to see actual numbers and not placeholders or infinity, we will set time t equal to 0.0001 seconds, or 1/10,000th. To calculate the g-force being released once this happens, we need some certain values. First, we need acceleration. We can use a equals v over t to find that the velocity is equal to 5.497 times 10 to the power 40 meters per second. And if we divide this by our time t, we get an acceleration of 5.497 times 10 to the power 44 meters per second squared. We can now take this number and divide it by our gravity constant g, or 9.81 meters per second squared, and we get a g-force of roughly 5.6 times 10 to the power 43 g's. Just how strong is this as a comparison? Well, the human limit of a g-force is around 50 g's. The force of a fatal car crash is around 100 g's. The gravity at the surface of a neutron star is around 200 billion g's. The event horizon of a black hole is roughly 10 to the power of 12 g's. So, the g-force exerted by this immediate stop of the big rig is around 5 nonillion times more than the event horizon of a black hole. Everything in the universe, the big rig, the driver, the buildings, Earth, the Milky Way galaxy, everything will have disintegrated beyond subatomic particles. The energy released by this instantaneous stop is around 10 to the power of 85 joules, and its density is so intense that it exceeds the Planck energy limit, meaning that spacetime itself cannot handle the stress of such an event. A black hole will instantly form and have a mass trillions of times greater than the entire observable universe. We know that black holes come in various sizes, so how big will this one be? Well, we can use the Schwarzschild radius formula and find that the radius will be around 2.5 times 10 to the power 42 meters, which is almost 3 quadrillion times larger than the universe. All of existence and everything known and unknown to man will collapse into a single point. As we are now in this black hole, nearing the point of singularity, every single particle and every single thing that you can think of will be stretched infinitely and spaghettified as it gets pulled towards the singularity. The Hawking radiation from this black hole will be so extreme that it would not only just evaporate molecules, but could even rip apart the fabric of space-time. Here, fundamental forces of the universe may just stop, or it may unify into a single point of pure chaos. Once everything in the universe has collapsed onto itself in a single point, the effects of quantum gravity take over. Space and time become practically meaningless, becoming a state as it was before the Big Bang. Density and energy continues to accumulate and near infinity as the laws of physics as we know it no longer work. As everything continues to collapse onto itself, if the theories of loop quantum cosmology or ekperiodic universe model are true, then the infinite energy buildup inside the singularity point could trigger something called a big bounce instead of a total collapse. The black hole at this point would actually rebound and explode outwards, sending all of its content out and causing a new inflationary event. This would mark the birth of a brand new universe. The size of this explosion would make the Big Bang look like nothing, and possibly even create a hyper-universe with different physical constants. That was a mouthful, and most of that made no sense to me as I was doing my research on this. But I would like to raise a theory. It is entirely possible that our own Big Bang could have been caused by some previous catastrophic event, such as some object traveling at big rig speed then immediately stopping. It could also suggest that there may be some endless cycle of new universes being created by the past big rig event, one after another, in some fashion of creating a multiversal theory. In essence, the universe begins with the Big Bang, and it ends with the Big Rig. That's the story of how one of the most notorious and broken games ever made got absolutely demolished by willing gamers over the course of 12 years. These people took on the challenge of not just playing the game, but by seeing how fast it can be beaten. They tested their patience and own limits time and time again, desperate for any improvement. I'm not making this video as an ego boost, but rather, to those who played the game before I did, to give them the recognition that they deserved. These people who spent hours searching for new routes and new ways to break the record. They're the real winners. Thanks for watching.